Steve from Rekord. I see you found our channel. This is a place where you can find videos about cars and about how to drive cars. So subscribe immediately not to miss out on our great content. Today is brought to you by the letter T for Taycan, the new electric car offering from Porsche. This is the Taycan 4S, the entry-level electric car from Stuttgart. I say entry-level because its base price is $105,000, and this one is optioned up to $146,000. So today could have been brought to you by the letter O for, oh my God, the options list is endless. Anyway, let's have a look at this car. Well, here I am sitting in a 2020 Porsche Taycan 4S. This belongs to my good friend Nigel Upton, and I thank him very, very much. Nigel tossed me the keys and said, be careful and don't thrash it, because he knows me. Because the first time he let me drive this, he was squealing like a little girl because I was testing out the performance of his brand new car. What can I say about this car other than the fact that it is very, very quiet? Just getting into it, it feels like a Porsche, and that was really the intention of the designers. They wanted to make a Porsche. They didn't want to make an electric car. It just happens to be powered by an electric drivetrain. Controls are very non-conventional. It's all touchscreens, and it's actually got a partial touchscreen for the gauge cluster, which is kind of interesting. You have a configurable dash in the middle, and then round the edge where you normally find buttons for various things, you have touch sensitive areas where you can switch off the traction control, change the suspension, raise or lower the suspension, lights, and so on and so forth. So this center gauge is very, very nicely laid out, and it kind of curves around, and it looks like an instrument cluster. So top marks to Porsche there. What I don't like about all these touchscreens, and I'll say it right now, it's my pet peeve, is that if you want to change the vents here and here, like they've got this little bar in the middle, but that bar doesn't move. So if you want to change the vents, like we're driving along now, I have to find it through the menus on this touch screen and use the touch screen to move the vents around, which is just seems to be overcomplicating stuff, and it's just stuff to go wrong. So that I do not like, and I'm getting that off my chest right away. I have the same problem with the Teslas for that. I mean, it's all very well and nice having everything controlled by a touchscreen, but whatever happened to the simplicity of a normal control? One of the things that this car doesn't have is very strong regeneration when you lift off the accelerator. My foot just came off the accelerator and we're coasting. So you don't get this strong braking effect when you take your foot off the accelerator pedal. It just coasts. All the regeneration is done through the brake pedal, and I am guessing Porsche did that because that's how a traditional internal combustion engine car behaves. So you can, I'm coasting up to these lights here, my foot is off the accelerator pedal, and I come on to the brake pedal, and it feels like a normal brake pedal. This particular model has the optional 93.4 kilowatt hour battery pack. That's up from 79.2 as standard. All the 4Ss they're making at the moment come with that, so they say it's an option, but it really isn't. You have to have it, and you have to have the panoramic sunroof, which is an option. It's actually very nice, huge, beautiful glass roof, plus the the portable charger. So when you order it, you have to have those items, even though they're options. So the base really isn't 104; it's more like 114. So this has the uprated battery pack, which gives it more range, and the performance really is quite incredible on this. Horsepower is rated at 563, if I remember correctly, but that is only available in short bursts. It's available for 2.5 seconds, and then and this is in order to manage the battery and the electronics, all the wiring. So it's to protect the battery and to ensure long life. So normal power is 482 horsepower, I think. Torque is 479 torques. It's that sounds very, very good until you realise this car weighs a little under 5,000 pounds. Now that is a heavy car, and when you compare it to the electric car that I just bought myself, which is the Hyundai Kona, and I know there is no comparison between a Porsche Taycan and a Hyundai Kona, so please don't berate me in the comments. I'm just using it as a frame of reference because that's what I've been driving in terms of an electric car. But if you look at the Kona, it weighs 3,800 pounds, which is still quite heavy. So, but that is more than 1,000 pounds lighter than this car. And if you compare it to the McLaren 600 LT that I was driving this week, which probably has similar horsepower, that weighs under 3,000 pounds, so it's a second faster to 60 than this is. So this car does 0 to 60 in 3.8 seconds, so it's definitely no slouch. And the impressive thing with it, like all electric cars, that torque that you have is there immediately, so it actually feels a lot faster than a comparable internal combustion powered car. The acceleration in this thing is really quite remarkable. Now, even the Kona, which only has 200, I think it's just over 200 horsepower, 201 horsepower, I think, you are very aware of that instant torque, and the acceleration is immediate. So ramp up the power as you have done in this car, and it's incredible. Now, this car has two firsts in the EV world. The first one is it uses an 800 volt architecture. Most electric cars are 400 volts, and I'll talk a little bit about why that's important. And the second one is it has a 2-speed transmission. Now that's really unusual. So most electric cars have a 1-speed transmission, which is a reduction gearbox just to get the high revs of the electric motors down to usable speeds for the wheels. This car has a 2-speed transmission, and it's fully automatic, and it kicks in at around 50 miles an hour. And the idea is to be able to get the best of both worlds: neck snapping acceleration, but efficiency on the highways. And that's highway speed is typically where electric cars are let down. They're just not very efficient. Its rated range isn't very much, though. I think the EPA estimate is 203 miles for this car, which is less than my Kona's 258, and the Kona has a much smaller battery. It's a 64 kilowatt hour battery, so the battery in this is 50% bigger than in the Kona, and it gets 50 miles less range. However, Porsche have done their own testing, and they believe the more realistic range is 270 miles or 271 miles. This car has a little dial down here that says drive mode on it, so let's have a look and see what that does. So we're currently in normal and it says the range is 260. If I turn it up a notch to sport, the range drops down to 254, and there are several options, actually 5 different options. If I go up to the next one, Sport Plus, range goes to 247. If I go to individual, so that you can actually set what the kind of the regeneration level is. I think this has 2 levels of regeneration. The climate control and that kind of stuff, it says the range is 260. And let's go back to range mode, 267. That probably limits the air conditioning in here, and probably limits, well, it limits power, but it'll probably limit top speed as well. I believe top speed in this car is 155 miles an hour, but we won't be finding that out today, because Nigel will get very upset with me. So for the basis of our driving today, we'll leave it in Sport Plus. And Sport Plus also, it looks like it lowered the suspension a little bit, and it's put me in Sport Plus suspension. Now if I touch the suspension button, the car comes up again, slightly higher, and the Sport Plus setting for the suspension goes off. So let's put it back. We'll put the suspension back on. This is using that touch screen on the side. Right, so we're in Sport Plus. The suspension is lowering. There's a little light or a little icon of the car that flashes, and we're in Sport Plus. Now there's a reason why I want to be into Sport Plus, and Nigel, if you're watching this, you may want to turn away. Because this car has launch control, and it's very simple to apply. I'm not going to do it right here because this area here, this particular area here, is notorious for the police, and we do not like people speeding. But Sport Plus, the application of Sport Plus is very, very simple. You put your left foot on the brake, and your right foot, you pin the accelerator, and off you go, apparently. So Nigel, I'll warn you when I'm going to do that, and I promise I'm only going to do it once. So let's go a little bit faster here, and let's use some of the braking here. And yeah, this car handles really, really well. Brakes are epic on this. These aren't the carbon ceramic brakes. They have a ceramic coating on the discs, which is part of the wheel package that came on this car. Silly man overtook he overtook on a solid yellow. I didn't. I overtook on the dotted line. I'm a good boy. This is a supremely comfortable drive. It takes these corners very, very quickly, and it acquires speed without even thinking about it, and it's effortless. And this car is so quiet, even blasting through these roads, which are quite twisty, and we found out this weekend the McLaren's very bumpy. It is supreme. This is such a joy to drive. So it's very, very sure-footed. Handling is very neutral. It does not feel like a £5,000 car, so they've really done their homework in Stuttgart on this car. With this innovative 2-speed transmission that they have, the rear axle can actually be disconnected completely for efficiency, so it's not 4-wheel drive all the time. It's just 4-wheel drive when it needs it. And the grip is really, really good. You can feel it pushing wide a little bit in some of the turns, but you can. I'm going at a reasonable speed, officer. But I mean, it's no effort. I'm talking normally in this. I'm not having to screech over road noise. There's no real effort in terms of the control. It's just an easy car to drive. Let's go down Horseshoe Dam Road. Let's see what's up here. Oh, this is a good opportunity actually to do Sport Plus. Right, so I've got my foot flat on the brake. I put my foot down on the accelerator pedal. It says launch control activated, and here we go. That's 60. Do it again. No, I want like okay, if we find a straight bit. So this is a nice twisty road. We're in Sport Plus. You can feel the bumps, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. You know, you want to feel the road. The steering is quite communicative. It's a little numb for my liking. I'd like to feel like there's good resistance in the wheel, but you know, I can feel a slight disconnect between the wheel and the wheels. Here we go again. So let's just try this again. So let's just try this for the first time, honest. So we're in Sport Plus. Foot flat down on the brake, other foot flat down on the accelerator, launch control activated, here we go. 60. And this car will just keep going. You keep doing that and it'll do that. I am assuming it'll do that all day, which is what the Teslas can't. The Teslas reduce power after you do a few launches like that to protect the battery and to avoid overheating. But this one has been engineered to do that all day long. Well, at least 10 times. I think they set out to make a sports car, a driver's car. They set out to make a Porsche, and it just happens to be powered by electricity. So I don't think they were making it to be the most efficient car in the world. They are not known for being the most economical cars. So if you look at the MPGe rating of this car, it gets 69 MPGe. So that's the equivalent of the miles per gallon. If you compare that to the Kona, which is a highly efficient electric car, that gets 128. So that just gives you an indication of the relative efficiency between the two cars. And part of that is the weight of the car, but part of it is how it uses the electricity to make the driving experience. And the driving experience is fantastic. It really is. So who cares? So one of the things that differentiates this car from other electric cars is its 800-volt architecture. And you may ask yourselves, why is that important? Well, there are a number of reasons, but so this is where we get into my grammar school physics. It's all about Ohm's law. And what Ohm's law says is that power is defined by your voltage multiplied by your current. It's a simple equation. What it comes down to, the more you can increase your volts in your car due to Ohm's law, that reduces your current, and therefore that reduces the resistive loss through heat in your wiring. And what that means is you can produce more power and you can recharge your batteries at a faster rate. And this is the only car at the market at the moment capable of recharging on an 800-volt system. So it can actually recharge at 270 kilowatts, which is, for the layman, bloody fast. It'll do a 0 to 80% charge in 22 minutes or something like that. The only problem is, at the moment, there are very few 800-volt DC chargers available. country, but they will come, and I think more manufacturers will move to this system when they see what Porsche has done, and the fact that they can use much thinner, lighter wiring and recharge the car much more quickly. Everybody's going to be doing it. So this car has the optional 150 kilowatt onboard charger. The standard base charger is only 50 kilowatts. So with the 150 kilowatt charger on board, this car can charge 3 times as fast as the base model without that option. So I would say that is almost an automatic option to have on the car. 50 kilowatts doesn't seem like very much, and I know that the Kona has I think it's around 75 kilowatt charger on board. So with 150 kilowatt charger, this car will charge twice as fast as the Kona. So here's a useless bit of information for you. It's where does the name Taycan come from? Well, it comes from 2 terms in the Turkic languages, which roughly translated mean the soul of a spirited young horse. So this car has the soul of a spirited young horse. What I don't get though is why they would choose a name that, when you look at it, says Taycan, but it's actually pronounced Taycan. And there's also a Japanese word, Taycan, which is spelt slightly differently, which means physical experience. So we're having a physical electrifying experience. I think one thing that's going to wear out very quickly on this car are the tyres, purely because of the weight of the car. And if you do spirited driving in it, you can feel the car pushing out on the corners. It kind of pushes wide, and that's going to be putting wear on the tyres. So I wouldn't be surprised if Nigel has to foot a big tyre bill fairly soon. Now this car has the Mission E wheels, which were it's not exactly the same, but the wheels that were featured on the Mission E concept, and it surprised a lot of people when the final production version of this car came out. It looks very, very similar to the Mission E concept, and you'll see that the wheels are very close to the gorgeous wheels that were on the concept car. These wheels turned out to be a very expensive option because he decided he wanted them painted body colour, and I think if you want to do that, then you have to have the ceramic coating on the brakes, and you have to have the white brake calipers. So all this stuff added up, and it turned it out being like a $10,000 option to have the pretty wheels. And I won't tell you what he did to them shortly after he got the car, but he wasn't very happy. It's very easy to rack up the dollars on this car, on the configurator. I spent a long afternoon playing on the Porsche configurator, trying to see how expensive I could make this car to be. As I said, the base price is quoted, it's just a touch under 104,000, and as I said, this one comes in at, I think it was 146,000. You can actually option up this car to I got it up to $201,000. But bear in mind, $6,500 of that was for bespoke luggage, so I think you could pass on that. And if you're on a budget and you're buying one of these, skip the carmine red paint, because I think that was $3,000 or $3,500 option. The only 2 colours that come as standard in this car are black and white. This one's white. If you want any of the other options apart from the carmine red, they are $800, which is actually pretty reasonable. But there is so much you can option in the interior. I'm not going to go into everything. I noticed he's got the Sport Chrono package in this, and some of the things that I would have expected to be standard in a car of this price were actually options. I think some of the lane keep assist, that's optional. If you want more autonomous driving, that's an option, and that was to be expected. But I did notice the lane keep assist was an option. The cross traffic warning was an option. I think the overhead camera thing, I think that was probably an option. But I will check and get back to you on those. But it's crazy, the options list. But I don't know if you'd want to live with one of these without some of the options. But this is a very different car to the McLaren 600 LT I was driving yesterday. I mean, that is a raw, visceral track beast. This is a luxury sports car and a Grand Tourer all in one. It's a great car. Well, we hope you enjoyed today's look at the Porsche Taycan 4S. It really is a remarkable car. And not only did you learn about the car, but you learned the basics of Ohm's law and also about Eurasian languages. So if you enjoyed it, give us the thumbs up, leave your comments below, and don't forget to subscribe by hitting this button here. We'll see you next time with another great car. Bye.